Welcome to another episode of Just Scrapping By, the YouTube channel where we find value in some of the most commonly thrown away electronics. In today's episode, we will be scrapping a flat-screen television manufactured by Samsung to see what valuable components can be found within. The model of the television is an LN-S2641D. It took us about half an hour to disassemble and another hour to depopulate the circuit boards. So let's get into the project. The first step, as with most monitors and screens, is to flip the device over and remove the screws holding the back panel together. For this device, we need to remove 9 screws around the perimeter of the device, 4 screws which secure the stand to the screen, and 2 screws located around the interface ports. We have successfully removed the back cover. We can now see the components inside the monitor. There is a main power board, a data board covered by a metal shield, and 2 speakers. Remember that the capacitors on the power board, if charged, carry a high voltage which can cause injury. Ensure that these capacitors are discharged before touching. When looking at the power board, we can see some capacitors, inductors, resistors, transformers, and MOSFET components. The data board which goes to the screen has what appears to be some ceramic capacitors, as well as some surface mount transformers. These surface mount components will be a challenge to remove, but we can easily remove the capacitors. The circuit board containing the interface ports appears to only have surface mount components available for salvage. We have never had any luck easily and economically removing surface mount components, so the entire board will be brought to the scrapyard for its scrap weight value. We removed 16 electrolytic capacitors from the monitor. 5 of these capacitors have a decent salvage value, while the other 11, although useful, are not worth much. We just made a little over a dime on ceramic capacitors. These 4 small capacitors are not really worth removing from the circuit boards, but we removed them for this project to show you everything that can be salvaged from this Samsung monitor. The quantity of polyester capacitors found in this device was as equally underwhelming as the ceramic capacitors. We found 2 capacitors worth 20 cents. We are approximately a third of the way through our salvage operation and we have only recovered about $20 worth of components. These 3 film capacitors are adding less than $3 to our potential profit. Hopefully we can get some big ticket items as we continue on. There were 2 large 11 mH inductors and 1 small 0.5 mH inductors found within the monitor. This is going to add almost $20 to our material sales. To step down the main voltage to something the monitor can use, we found 1 larger transfer and 1 small transformer. These transformers can either be sold as is or scrapped for all of the copper found within. We only found 1 small RF coil transformer during the depopulation of the circuit boards in the device. Although this component is not worth much, it will go in the drawer of transformers as we may have a use for it at a later date. 1 measly 66-cent diode is all we managed to find. This diode is a Schottky barrier diode, and although we already have lots of them in inventory, they always have a use somewhere in an electronics project. We found some interesting integrated circuit chips within the device. There are a few 817D optocouplers as well as a single P421 optocoupler. There is also an F9222L power switch, an M3575D SAW filter for digital signals, as well as one TS4B05G bridge rectifier. There is also an unknown chip. It may be a power management chip, but we cannot find any data online about what it does. The chip has an identification code of KR1605. If you know what this chip does, please let us know in the comments section. There was a small amount of MOSFET components within the device. There was a 33167T switching regulator, as well as a K1A278 voltage drop regulator. We also found 1 single MBRF1545 CT Schottky rectifier and 3 YG865C10 Schottky barrier diodes. These MOSFET devices will add almost $20 to our salvage value. We safely removed 4 NPN transistors from the circuit boards. These transistors are not that expensive, but their uses are almost limitless when building electronic projects. We found one high wattage cement resistor in the device. These resistors are very useful for high power applications, and we can definitely find a use for this component. We grabbed 4 resistors off the circuit boards in the device. Resistors are so cheap that they are not worth the time to remove, but since it is always good to have a few laying around, we figured we would pull the easy ones off for our parts drawer. There were 2 fuses on the circuit boards. One fuse is a simple 5 amp single-use fuse, but the other fuse is more useful as it is a resettable fuse. Resettable fuses are great to put in areas where you cannot always gain access to replace the fuse if it blows. We found 4 small pieces of heatsink on the circuit boards. Yes, this heatsink is valuable because it is clean and pure aluminum, but it is more valuable if we sell it as pre-cut and pre-formed heatsink. If we wanted to buy this heatsink from a supplier, we would be paying over $20. There were 5 miscellaneous components we removed from the circuit boards. We salvaged a thermistor, a varistor, a crystal oscillator, and a crystal resonator. We also pulled a white component with no serial number or other identifiers. We have no clue what this does. If you have seen one of these before, please share your knowledge in the comments section. We removed 3 ferrite rings from the various cables within the device. These rings are great for reducing noise in a wire, or can be used to build toroidal inductors. We have not decided whether we will sell these or keep them for future projects. We found a few good screws when we were taking apart the device. All of the screws we found were machine screws, and some of them are meant to secure MOSFET devices to heatsink, while the others were meant to hold the device together. We will put these in our screw drawer for future use. The monitor contained 2 small speakers. We have no use for speakers in our projects, and these will be definitely going up on our parts auction site as soon as possible. So, here is a pile of yellow components. At first glance, they look like ceramic capacitors, but they are not. Honestly, we do not know what they are. Reflecting back, when we were disassembling the monitor, we found these yellow components on the circuit boards that connect the power board to the actual monitor. Each component has the code SD6KV62 printed on one side. We have searched for this and do not get any results. If you know what these components do, please share it with the community in the comments section below. When we compile our list of components together, we had a good mix of various things we can either use or resell. When we add everything we salvaged together, as well as the scrap metal and scrap circuit board value, we have a final total of $119.23. It took us approximately 1.5 hours to disassemble and depopulate the circuit boards. If we take our scrap value of $119.23 and first deduct the cost of our labor, we can make a maximum profit of $95.82 if we manage to sell all of the components. We would need to sell a minimum of $24 worth of salvage in order to break even on this project. In our situation, we did not pay for this device, but if you were to acquire the device for any cost up to $80, you would still make a profit. So the question is scrapping this device worth it? If you were to obtain the device for free, or up to a purchase price of $80, you would make a profit. There was an assortment of components that we were able to remove from the device, but there was not a large quantity of components that could be removed. The boards depopulated easily, and some of the components have a variety of uses which increases their value. The only other downside is many components are surface mount, which are very hard to remove and reuse. For the Samsung LN-S2641D flat screen monitor, we give it a scrapping grade of a B+. Thank you for watching our video, and remember to subscribe to our channel to see more great tutorials on how to turn the old into gold.